Hi, how's it going everybody? My name's Adara and welcome to part 2 of reviewing Pewdiepie's book reviews. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is a 2-part series of videos where I picked 9 books of my own interest that Pewdiepie read and reviewed on his channel to read and review for myself. I will state my own review of the books and compare my opinions to Felix's. So without further ado, let's get on with the book reviews, starting with book number 6, No Longer Human by Ozamu Dazai. Yes, crippling depression boy. Big sad no longer alive boy because he did the big bad after writing this book. Yeah. Rest in peace, Ozamu Dazai. So, some of you might recognize this name from somewhere other than literature. If you're a weeb like I am, you might have seen this character floating around the anime community. Well, this character, of the same name, was inspired by the author. So if you could put 2 plus 2 together from that, you'll conclude that Dazai here, both the author and the character, have a really unhealthy obsession with, So naturally, No Longer Human is the story about a man who has crippling depression his entire life, to the point that he simply could not understand or relate to other people. Hence, in his perspective, not being human. And whatever humanity or health he had, it just kept slowly slipping away as people unmasked his fake smiles in attempts of being, human. Until eventually, at a young age, it became too much and he decided to yeet himself many times. He failed many times, guys, and eventually succeeded shortly after finishing this book. A little fun fact about this novel, maybe not too fun, is that it's the second highest selling Japanese novel of all time, at least in Japan. And honestly, considering how Japan is one of the most self-permanent sleeping countries in the world, with its unrealistic work ethics and even certain woods that are famous for the certain concepts, I'm not even remotely surprised on how big this book is. Extremely sad, absolutely, but not surprised. So what do I think about this novel? Well, I like the interesting concepts that delve into human psychology. And considering how I personally have depression as well, I could empathize and understand how Dazai's character was feeling with the things that he was going through. However, I couldn't relate because I feel like his depression was much more intense than mine, since he didn't have a single millimeter of support and self-understanding. But I could definitely understand him nonetheless. Though I feel like I have to read this book a few more times to fully appreciate and absorb everything it has to offer. Because of the extremely unbalanced pacing and consistent pure vomiting of character consciousness and emotions, it was a difficult book to fully absorb all the way through in just one read. But still possible if you read it slowly and carefully. Not being too lazy to reread paragraphs, unlike my first read. One positive note, however, is that my muse, my creep neko-loving god Junji Ito-sensei, actually made a manga adaptation of this classic novel to offer a different way of reading and experiencing the story. And honestly, thank God for that, because it's definitely making things much easier for me right now. I read the first few chapters and I'm fully enjoying it much more than the pure unfiltered text of Dazai. There are even more details that I didn't remember from when I read the book that gave me some strong impacts as well. The bad thing is that I don't know how much of it is Ito's doing or if it's actually in the book. I genuinely don't remember and I feel pretty bad about it. But I do hope that none of you judge me too badly for that though. But overall, I feel like it's a good novel to read for those who are not faint of heart, since it deals with heavy subjects. Some people can find relief from these stories, while others feel worse. You know yourself best of anyone, so you know what kind of person you are. All I can say is, proceed with caution. If you think you can handle it, then it's a story I definitely recommend. It will truly sink your heart. Book number 7, The Republic by Plato. So this was one of, if not the last book review Felix did, and it was his first video on philosophy as well, which most of us fans know now that he's extremely passionate about. So as the wholesome little bean I am, I wanted to be interested in the things Felix cared about, even though I didn't know jack shit about traditional Greek philosophy, except for that whole cave thing. But I'll get there in a bit. So I bought the book, which was sold in exclusive bookstores only, and I started reading a few pages, and basically my reaction was, "Excuse me? What the fuck?" Honestly, I didn't understand jack shit of what I was reading, dude. But I thrived regardless. I wanted to finish it, damn it. If Felix could do it and understand it, then so could I. I'm not stupid, I swear. I even took notes. Notes! I have them to this day because I feel too bad to yank them off my journal. And in the end, about 2 months later, after reading about 5 pages a day, I finished it. And what was the result? Welp, I still don't know what the fuck Plato was talking about. Yay! Oh God, please end my suffering. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't understand anything. I just didn't understand most of it, that's all. Okay, but jokes aside, I could understand more or less the subjects at hand. And sometimes I would understand what Plato was trying to say. But these debates and conversations, dude, maybe it was just the way that they spoke back in the day, but I just did not get much from that book, even though I tried my hardest to. I remember my classmates were all telling me to stop reading. They were all like, "Dude, it's pointless. That book is so stupid. There's plenty of other books that explain philosophy better than that. It's too raw and advanced." I mean, for fuck's sake, even my philosophy teachers thought this. But I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. I wanted to take the challenge just so I could say that I did it. You know how there was a trend during the first months of quarantine where girls were shaving their heads just because they wanted to look back and say that they did that, just because they could? It's kind of like that for me, only more boring. Also, I genuinely wanted to understand why Pews loved this philosophy book in particular so much. After having read it, I still don't know. Probably never will. I envy Felix for understanding something so complex, but me, I guess I just don't have that kind of capacity. Book number 8, Blame, by Tomoe Nihei. Alright, so this one, I read the whole 10 volumes, so we'll talk about it respectively. This was the first manga I ever started reading, at least the physical copy, after a really long time. I used to read a few yaoi manga back in my teens, but because a certain author only uploads every other fucking solar eclipse, I kind of got sick of waiting for goddamn stories to end, and I just kind of quit manga overall. But back to Blame. Like I said, this was my first manga, and I actively decided to collect it till the last volume. And I did this for one reason and one reason only. Felix's first video on anything literature was on this manga series, and I honestly loved it. The track Felix used for that video became one of my favorite musical pieces ever. I remember it took me ages to find the name of that song. I listen to it anytime I feel a bit melancholic and I need some comforting. Also, back when this video first came out, Felix was very rarely himself in videos. He never did personal videos like this one. So hearing him talk about something so passionately like this manga really touched my heart. I just had to read it, man, and know what it was all about. So when I finally did, I was aware that Blame was not a very easy story to follow. Felix said in his video that it's a very quiet, environmental, cyberpunk adventure story. And it was. It just wasn't exactly the way I pictured it. At least when it came to the main character. So the manga describes Killy as an adventure seeker, but I didn't feel that from him, not even a little bit. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of quiet, introverted action characters out there, but it just never felt like Killy went on this quest for the sake of finding an adventure. He had an objective from the very beginning, which was to find the Gene Modern. So I'd call it more of a quest than an adventure seeker. The story goes along smoothly if you give the pages the appropriate time to absorb them in your head. How much time that is? I honestly don't know. I would say it depends on every individual. So the first half of the books, I read very slowly and steadily, but I took gigantic breaks between books, and by that time that I started picking up again, I started losing patience. So combining long breaks with reading every volume faster resulted in me forgetting a lot of crucial information. So my advice, if you want to pick up a blame, is please read the series all at once, at least one every week or so. Otherwise, you are going to get lost, since a lot of the information given to you is visual, which can be harder to remember than dialogue at times. But alas, I eventually finished this series, and I was kind of disappointed with the ending. But that's probably because I didn't really understand it. I was too focused on this Gene Modern, but I won't say much more than that because I don't want to give spoilers. The story gets a bit more complicated in the second half overall, so that mixed with my reading gaps, I got lost easily. So I probably didn't read the story as properly as I could. But sadly, I didn't really care enough to go deep dive Google search to figure out what the whole thing meant. Because I do that with certain pieces of media I really want to understand, because I was really immersed and care for it, like Fully Cooley, for example, who became my second favorite anime series of all time. That being said, I think I could still recommend Blame if you're willing to immerse yourself, because that's the only way I think you will really enjoy it. And I think it's worth doing. I feel like it's the kind of art piece that you can't really spoil because a huge chunk of it is either up to interpretation and analysis, or it's just way too fucking hard to explain. Which, speaking of which, even though it's not the best, Felix loves this manga for the same reason I recommend it to people. Its environment and world building. Even though the story isn't all that amazing, this manga has some of the prettiest fucking architecture art I've ever seen, dude. Enough for an architecture student to go, ugh. What the fuck am I doing? That might seem like it's not reason enough to read it, but come on, guys. It's just 10 volumes. You can definitely read them at a chill pace, as long as the gaps aren't as big as mine, of course. It's a very relaxing story with some cool action and incredible character design, especially for those who love cyberpunk apocalyptic scenarios. So even though I didn't love it, I definitely think that it's worth giving it a go. Before I start talking about the final book, I would like to say that the author is political to a certain extent. But I myself am not a political person, nor do I want to associate that with my brand. Hence, I will try my best not to use any political terms so that we can all look at this book just as a piece of literature and judge mostly from that. So with that being said, let's get started. Shit. Here we go again. Book number 9. 12 Rules of Life by Jordan B. Peterson. Yes. Book 9. Left this one for last for a few reasons. First, number 9 is my unlucky number. It's also the most spiritual and religious number, which goes quite well with this book, surprisingly. And 2, because I did not like this book. Reading it annoyed me a lot, because it was not what I expected at all. When Felix reviewed it, I thought this book was going to be a Bible of pure wisdom. I thought it was going to change my life, and that I will have uncovered the secrets of the universe or some shit. Without a doubt, this was the worst of the bunch. At least with the Republic, I felt like I was trying to understand something important. But this shit? It's just a conservative psychologist with fat ego who writes like he's some kind of god of wisdom and we're just a bunch of peasants. This guy has no clue what the fuck he's talking about. I mean, I suppose he has the right intentions, but the outcome was definitely the poorest quality. Felix described the book as a self-help, more or less. And since he's someone who detests that genre, he said this was an exception. So after looking at some online opinions, it's really a 50-50 opinion on this book, if it's self-help or not. But yeah, to me this book looks like it from the surface, but the way it's written, the contents it has, and the overall structure of the book makes it look like a very big essay from a snobby little know-it-all. Dude, this book has more filler than fucking Naruto, okay? Which I have never watched for that reason, but honestly would prefer that than finishing this book. He just goes on and on and on about bullshit that doesn't fucking matter. Pages and pages of either useless information and opinions and self-theories that only mildly connects to the title of the rule. So many personal stories about himself that generally do not feel personal at all, in the sense that there is no sensitivity to it. It's more like, oh, here's some amazing facts about my life. Oh, look at my childhood. Dude, I don't know you. I don't fucking care. You're acting snobbish. Shut up and get to the point. And let's not forget the religious anecdotes. Oh God, the religious anecdotes. Felix, my man, you told me you only noticed this guy was religious at the very end? Most of Rule 2 talks about Adam and fucking Eve. Why, Felix? Why did you do this to me? So yeah, to summarize, this book is filled with fancy dialogue that makes Peterson look like the smartest man on earth. But in actuality, the book has only about 20% substance and 80% banter. I think if you just read the last 2 or 3 pages of every rule, you'll get the only good things about it. Or, if you don't want to waste money, which I recommend, just watch his summaries on it on YouTube. This book was clearly made for commercial reasons to gain money and popularity. Maybe it was intended to help people, but with the lack of humility, humanity, and abundant benign banter, this book fails miserably at that task.
So what is my conclusion for this project? Well, first of all, we can make a couple of conclusions from this. Felix and I have very different tastes because we're very different people, and that's completely fine. He's gonna like some things that I don't, I'm gonna like some things he doesn't. That's what makes us unique, different beings. But overall, we do have things in common, and that's why I wanted to take on part of the self-made challenge. Felix is somebody that I've always respected for many years. I've been watching the guy since I was a teenager, about 8 years ago. And he's always managed to put a smile on my face, no matter what. He could make me happy on my saddest days. He was like an older brother to me when I was waking up. And I always watch these videos to this day whenever I need a good laugh. So if I could say anything to Felix, who is probably not watching this video, but you know, you never know. I just want to say thank you, Felix, for all of those wonderful book reviews you've made. You don't know me, and obviously I don't know you, but growing up watching your videos, I always felt this connection between you and I, just like every other one of your fans feels. And because of that connection, I really started to care about the things that you care, even though it's not to the same extent. I know there are some people that keep bothering you and wanting you to make more of the book reviews. But I kind of noticed that it's not one of your favorite things to do anymore since they don't get a lot of views. So the only thing that I would like to say is don't force yourself to make them if you don't want to. I just wanted to make this little series to say thank you for all of the wonderful books that you read in 2018, all your wonderful thoughts, and how you always explained your passions. It really did warm my heart. I really am grateful for you, and I always will be, for the difference that you made in my life. So, thank you for the past 8 years. So that is it for my mini-series of book reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have you read the books that I talked about in these videos? What did you think of the books? Did you like them or dislike them? Leave all of those thoughts in the comments below. I interact with comments frequently, so maybe we can have a nice little discussion. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new uploads. If you like anime content, please subscribe to my second channel. And if you would like to support me, please donate $1 to my Ko-Fi page, where all the funds will be going to this channel and making of new videos. So yeah, that's all for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day and remember to stay determined. TFN guys! Alright.